It is the rematch that we've all been anticipating ever since Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, and seeing where Goku gauges now against Beerus that he's mastered Ultra Instinct. But the question the entire community is asking is, will it happen? And if it does, what would be the outcome? On today's video, we will be discussing the ultimate battle between mastered Ultra Instinct Goku and Beerus as we analyze, break down, and dissect this anticipated rematch to see where each character stands. So hold on to your Dragon Balls and buckle up tight, because we're going to be discussing the ultimate rematch between Ultra Instinct Goku and Beerus next. If you are new to this channel and enjoy what you see, then don't forget to punch that subscribe button and turn on all notifications by clicking on the bell icon to receive new and daily content on your mobile devices, desktops, and services that I provide, along with following me on these social media platforms to stay connected with me at all times. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now let's begin. It is the match that the entire Dragon Ball community wants to see, the epic battle between Goku and Beerus once more. As joining me here today to discuss the inevitable rematch between Goku and Beerus is my good friend EmoshIsLive. As Emosh, I wanted to talk to you here today about mastered Ultra Instinct Goku having to clash against a full-powered Beerus. Now, by the end of Dragon Ball Super, many people were begging the question if Goku was going to battle Beerus once more, at least by the end of the show, just to gauge in terms of power where each individual stands. And I personally think that after seeing what Goku did, being the strongest that he's ever been against Jiren, and seeing Beerus be suppressed to the point where he's never tapped into his full power, my question to you is, if we had the opportunity to see Goku versus Beerus once more, both at full power, for the first time seeing Beerus at full power at that, who do you believe would walk away the winner? And do you think this scenario is logical to happen in the future, maybe after Dragon Ball Super, after the upcoming Dragon Ball Super movie? Because it's very interesting to me to see the way Goku has been portrayed, especially towards the end of Super, with him having to gain Ultra Instinct quote-unquote by accident, and still seeing Beerus on the top of his game, especially in the manga, taking down Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, being able to mock the Saiyans in telling them that they're not going to be anywhere near his power even for a million years. How do you see this going down, and do you believe that such a scenario would be possible in the foreseeable future to get Beerus versus Goku once more? Because it's been a fight that we've all been craving for since the beginning, especially after Battle of Gods and seeing how intense that battle was. Do you think it's possible that we may one day end up getting a rematch for these two specific characters, or do you believe that that window has been forever shut and thus having to move forward in the future for something else to happen?
Well, first off, I think it's funny that you mentioned being a rival to Beerus, because the actual manga talks about the same thing. Like the Oracle Fish, not too long ago, a few chapters ago, before the Tournament of Power, when Vegeta basically was training with Whis, and what even sparked that fight, that sparring match between Vegeta and Beerus in that chapter, was when the Oracle Fish had pretty much told Beerus that no, those two will become your rivals someday.
Right. And
Beerus was like, "Are you serious?" And then he just gets up, he's like, "Yo, Vegeta, why don't you try fighting me?" And then basically he just one-shots him, right? So it's kind of funny that you bring that up. So we know for sure that hopefully the show will take the same direction. We know for sure that the manga will actually continue after the Tournament of Power, but we don't know in what specific direction they're going to take. But I feel like seeing that scene kind of gives us a glimpse as to what may or may not happen in the actual show if we were to actually get a rematch. Now, obviously, the way they scale the manga characters is completely different from the way they scale the anime characters. But at the same time, there have been instances, for example, the Tournament of Power, where they have taken events that have happened in the manga,
right,
and they've incorporated those events into the actual anime itself. So as far as like what would happen, or how do I think it would happen between Master UI Goku and Beerus, I feel like the problem with scaling or looking at Master Ultra Instinct Goku is the fact that they also allowed Jiren to basically be able to fight him and to be able to hit him, especially when you consider all the times that they've specified that, you know, you'll be able to overcome every single danger. Like we were basically given and introduced, we thought that a Master Ultra Instinct would be like, okay, he can't be touched and he's gonna put his hands on you every single time. Jiren not basically knowing Ultra Instinct, Jiren not having any, you know, form of it, not doing these things himself, but still being able to fight on a comparative level. I feel like I feel like the show maybe should have just allowed for him to also be able to tap into that power. At least that way it would have made sense as to why he's fighting Goku to begin with. So I feel like us looking at how Goku performed versus Jiren, even in his Master Ultra Instinct state, was kind of unfortunate, because I felt like once Goku mastered it, even if it was temporary, it should have just been a one-sided fight.
And
even though at moments, there were moments where it felt like it was, but the problem was that Jiren still did significant damage to Goku. So that was kind of a problem. If anything, Ultra Instinct Omen did a better job at dodging than Mastered Ultra Instinct, which was kind of funny. But anyway, as far as Beerus is concerned, there was, I think it was the Vegeta magazine or something like that, that kind of, they had a statement in it where it was quoted by Beerus, and Beerus actually says he may have even surpassed me. Obviously, he's talking about Goku, and this is Master Ultra Instinct Goku.
And that's the key word, may have.
Right, so it's kind of similar to when Shin in the manga says perhaps Vegeta may have surpassed Beerus.
Yep.
But this is different because it's coming from Beerus himself. Beerus is comparing Goku to him directly. It's not someone else looking at it from the outside. So I personally don't take Shin's statement to be remotely any type of credible at all. So I feel like that's interesting. But I think pushing Beerus to full power would have been enjoyable to see. As for how I think they would have ended the fight or how it would have been portrayed, I personally think that it would have been a draw. I feel like they would have ended on some kind of cliffhanger to where they clash one final time and then the screen just blacks out or something like that, and then we see them like after the fight. I personally don't think they would allow for Goku to beat Beerus, and I personally don't think they would allow for Beerus to even beat Master Ultra Instinct Goku. But I feel like if we did see an actual fight between them, it comes down to basically whether or not Goku can sustain the form, but it also comes down to specifically how strong Beerus is. Even though he hasn't mastered the technique, there's no denying that if Jiren is able to dish out damage to even Master Ultra Instinct Goku, whether or not he's stronger than Beerus, it doesn't matter what you guys feel about that. But the bottom line is that Beerus should also be able to do the same thing. Sorry about that. So
I also feel
think
like it
this fight
comes
is
full circle seeing what happened during Battle of Gods and seeing as to how Beerus wanted a rival, and that rival being Goku, and taking him under his wing subconsciously and seeing how Whis was able to improve Goku and Vegeta's skill set over a long period of time. We saw how much they've grown from Battle of Gods into Resurrection of F, and then so on and so forth during the Goku Black story and now the Tournament of Power. So I feel like personally that would have been like the right thing to do to close that chapter off. And I do think that perhaps maybe they might end up doing that after Dragon Ball Super. Maybe, you know, as the years progress, we might end up seeing a rematch. And I do think that a rematch is more than suitable, I think, for the show now, given that Goku has reached such a peak in power that I'm sure it kind of interests Beerus now in seeing what Goku's capable of doing as of this current point in time. But I also think that this fight wouldn't be as one-sided as people believe, in the idea that maybe Goku's gonna have the complete dominating state over Beerus, or maybe vice versa. I think that, you know, Beerus would actually be able to hold his own, and this is why I say why. Up until this very point in time, Beerus never used his full power against anybody because he never needed to. As of his current standing, he never was required to be pushed that far in using what's given to him as a destroyer, and using 100% of his full power, because he was already considered to be the strongest in his universe minus the Angel. So with that, when we saw him collide against Goku, surely enough, they were destroying galaxies, and you know, they could have destroyed the entire universe if they kept colliding those punches. But even though that was retconned, it still goes to show that Beerus, even at such a suppressed state like that, could actually dish out loads of damage, and you can only imagine as to what he would be like if he were to be pushed at 100%. So asking you this just objectively, looking at both Goku and Beerus, do you think that Beerus would be able to touch Goku just like Jiren did in the actual show, or do you believe that at 100% Goku, not having any battle damage, but being able to be aware of his consciousness and being able to go into this fight with everything he has, do you think that he would just simply avoid all of Beerus' attacks like Whis had hinted during Resurrection of F? Or do you believe that Beerus at some point, even though he does not have the capabilities of using Ultra Instinct himself, would still be able to do damage to Goku and getting the upper hand? One
of the many beautiful things about the show, or about the series, is that even though the show is often or commonly perceived to be the Goku show, the beautiful thing about it is that, and the beautiful thing about Goku is that he has to get his ass kicked for it to be a meaningful fight. Like, if Goku never really got his ass kicked all those times, and he just basically, every single fight that he engaged in was just completely one-sided in his favor, the show would be completely boring. But watching Goku get beat up, watching him basically surpass his limits and continue to grow and grow and grow and grow, and then just somehow pull the W, even if he isn't the one pulling the W, somehow they always manage to do it, right? So I think that's it's such a major thing. I personally don't think that the fight would be one-sided. I personally don't think that Goku would just be invincible the entire time. I don't think they would just make it to where, okay, well, Goku, he's invincible, but then all of a sudden he loses the form and Beerus kicks his ass. I really don't think that would be the case at all. I think Beerus, even though he hasn't mastered Ultra Instinct, and even though he's lazy, there's no denying what he's capable of in terms of raw power, and it's obviously in terms of his fighting capability, he's no joke. And I think that even though Goku and Vegeta are literally students of Whis, more oftentimes than not, they've showcased otherwise throughout the show. They've basically met their match to people who are not even training under angels to begin with, as to where Beerus, who is a Hakaishin, kind of really feels like he could just suppress himself and just take it up a notch whenever he wants to, because he's the freaking man. And like, obviously I do sound like a Beerus fanboy because I technically am, but ultimately what it comes down to is I think that's what makes the choreography of Dragon Ball throughout its history as good as it always has been. And even for Dragon Ball Super in certain instances, I think the choreography for the finale, for example, was pretty cool, even though the scaling didn't make sense. I think the choreography for the Goku and Jiren fight in the 1 hour special was also pretty awesome. So like, there's been many instances where, you know, Goku has to get his ass kicked. Look at any transformation that he's ever had. Super Saiyan for the first time, Ultra Instinct for the first time, battle damaged, he got his ass kicked. So I think what it comes down to is that no, it would not be a one-sided fight. Beerus would definitely be able to get hits in. And remember, Goku, even though he didn't master the offensive side, still clearly got stronger. Just because Beerus did not master Ultra Instinct does not mean that he's not capable of dishing out damage. So yeah, his punches may be quote-unquote inadequate, but that doesn't take away from his raw power at all, because we've seen what he can do. So by default, I think that it would be a very enjoyable fight to see. I honestly think it's something that we still need to see in terms of a rematch,
Absolutely.
even if it's a sparring match. So I don't know what they're waiting for. Hopefully we do see more. Hopefully they incorporate what they did with the manga into the actual show going forward. I think the fan base has earned that. I think we've been patient enough to see that, considering that Ultra Instinct was a quote-unquote accident. But for sure, Goku has definitely got exponentially stronger since determined power. I think even if it's a sparring match, I think it's long overdue personally.
I think that eventually they have to give us this fight, because Goku knows that Beerus is basically one of the benchmarks in terms of being the strongest and Goku wanting to surpass him. And Goku has always been that way. He's always been the type of person that he always wants to surpass the person that he's under or learns under or is guided by. And, you know, Goku shows Beerus lots of respect, even though there are moments to where Goku does his own thing. I think that down the line, they ought to showcase this fight, not more or less in a sparring essence, but to where one person provokes the other, to where they actually have a fight. Now, it doesn't have to be anything major on the line. For example, you don't have to put the Earth's, you know, livelihood of the people on there, like, on the line again, like as you did in Battle of Gods, but more or less have it to where one provokes the other, just like how Goku kind of provoked Beerus before the universe survival arc even began, when he told, you know, Beerus about the Omni button, that he wanted to go see Zeno, and Beerus said, no, don't do that. And Goku went along and doing so anyway, and that's kind of disobeying a destroyer, and he was gonna Hakai him on the spot. So I think that seeing this, Goku ought to be the one to, you know, take charge in the precedent and saying, okay, well, I've gotten this far, I want to be able to see what I have against you, Lord Beerus, and see what he can do. And I think that this is going to happen one day. I think that it ought to happen whenever Dragon Ball Super does come back, and I think that it will come full circle that once Dragon Ball does return, the first of arcs that happen, or maybe like the first kind of like stories that take place, are the story of that rematch between Goku and Beerus. Now, I don't consider the Beerus versus Goku fight with the Monaka suit as a rematch. Some people will, but I don't consider that to be like an official rematch per se, as them two fighting in the flesh. So let's say, for example, if Dragon Ball Super were to return, or whatever else follows Dragon Ball Super, would you want to see this in the form of like its own little story, perhaps maybe not filler, but like having its own little mini arc to where there's tension brewing between the two, and all it takes is one slip up for one to tell the other, okay, well, I'm done putting up with your stuff, let me see what you can do now, and then having a fight. So would you rather see that, or would you rather that happen like in its own movie or something else separate entirely?
Well, no, I think we need it in the series, and I think that it's interesting because did say once before that Beerus and Goku are very much alike in terms of how they see their rivalry and stuff like that, right? Even though Beerus said, don't compare me, don't compare me to him, at least I have manners and stuff like that. But in a way, they are alike. Like, Beerus wants to fight someone who's strong, who can make him try, and Goku wants to fight someone who's stronger than he is. So it kind of goes hand in hand, in my opinion. So I think we do need to see it in the series, even if it's just them training. I don't think Beerus would just be like, you know what, I'm tired of your shit, bro. Like, that's it. We're gonna throw some hands right now. I don't think that's how it would be portrayed. I think it comes down to them training. Perhaps, Whis is talking to Goku about Ultra Instinct, whatever. And then just like, once again, just like in the manga where Vegeta's there maybe too as well, and Vegeta and Beerus is talking to the Oracle Fish, and the Oracle Fish says something, no, he's gonna catch up to you soon, or something along the lines of that. Because I've noticed that Beerus takes the Oracle Fish's words very seriously. That if anything, that's what started Battle of Gods. That's what it was based on. Like, Beerus basically listening to the Oracle Fish's prophecy, and then he had a dream and all this other stuff. So like it came full circle, came into fruition. So I think that's what it comes down to. I think it comes down to the Oracle Fish, because Beerus seems to take his word very, very, very seriously, if not more seriously than Whis in some cases. And it would just come down to that, really. I think the manga kind of hit the nail on that. So I think we need it in the series. I would not like to see it in a movie. Even if it's a sparring match where it's not like Monaka Suit Beerus, who's clearly suppressing himself to prevent himself from damaging the suit, fighting base Goku. But I think we need some kind of a fight where even if it's a sparring match, Goku to some degree at least goes blue, and maybe Kaioken, and then Beerus is just like, they're just beating each other up at the, on Beerus's planet, and then for whatever reason they just stop. But even if the fight doesn't finish, at least it gives us some leeway to say, well, okay, now we know, it kind of brings the oomph back into the series, right? So I think that's what we need. Even if we don't get a flat out fight, like a full on fight, I would still like to get something like along the lines of that every now and then. I think the fan base deserves it.
Now, my final question to you is, what do you think would be like the best and the worst case scenario in presenting this kind of a fight? Because you can't mess this up, like you really can't. This is how Dragon Ball, came to be after Battle of Gods. You had the resurgence of Dragon Ball following the fight between Goku and Beerus. So what do you think would be like the best and the worst case scenario of them introducing this fight, or at least introducing this in the form of the anime as opposed to a movie or anything, like on the side per se?
The problem with movies is that even though the movies tend to be pretty good, like I think Battle of Gods is pretty good for at the time, like it was really good. Like the fighting sequences especially, but they kind of rush it when it comes to closing out the climax of the actual fight. So that's my only issue with that. I don't want it to be rushed. But then if you look at Dragon Ball Super, the climaxes for Dragon Ball Super in major fights have always been rushed as well. I don't think the idea of like the copy of Vegeta thing was like a good arc in my opinion. Would I replace it with something else? Sure, if I could, I would. But you go into the Goku Black arc, it started off pretty good, but then look what happened. Merge Zamasu gets cut in half by the final Sword of Hope by a technique that Trunks didn't even know. He didn't even know what was going on, but just to get the arc out the way, they just said, okay, guys, let's wrap it up. And once again with the Tournament of Power, like it's interesting the way they, as good as it was, don't get me wrong, like it had its moments where it was like, it got people hype, but to close out, the fan base was very divided amongst the finale, how they viewed the finale. Like I understood the route they were going, but the problem is that they made it clear that it was about power, then all of a sudden, nah, forget that, it's not about power, it's about, Rocky 5, Rocky Balboa versus Tommy Gun. Like they made it seem like it was that kind of a fight all of a sudden. People were not expecting that. So I think that's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that they end up rushing the fight for whatever reason, which is why I suggested that which is why I suggested for it to not be a full-on fight, but for it to be like some kind of a sparring match where it's like at least they're both trying, but for some reason the fight stops or whatever the case may be, very similar to how
like
the manga handles it. Interruption, or maybe just Beerus just one-shots him, I don't know, whatever the case may be, or Beerus just clearly puts him down and says, yo, unless you learn how to tap into Ultra Instinct, you'll never be able to defeat me. Like something like that would be cool, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no way Goku's gonna beat him in blue. Hell no. Ultra Instinct has to be the thing. So I would probably do it like that, where it's just like, listen, like Beerus says to Vegeta in the manga, it'll take you 1,000,000 years for you to catch up to me. And then like for the anime, it's like, bro, unless you learn how to tap into Megata no Goku again, you'll never be able to touch me, or make me even use like 70% of my power. I'll just say 70% like Battle God. So I think that's what the best case scenario. But the worst case scenario is where it's another Monaka suit incident, as comedic as that was, it's not something that the fans want to see now, especially coming after the Tournament of Power, especially coming after the movie. You know what I'm saying? Where we need to know where Goku stands, especially Vegeta as well. I don't want to leave Vegeta out of the conversation because he deserves to be there as well. So that's what it comes down to.
I personally think that the fight between Beerus and Goku needs to happen indefinitely at some given point. Now, the reason for that is because, like I said earlier, this has been the build-up since the beginning of Battle of Gods. We've seen how much Goku has trained through Resurrection of F and everything he's accomplished thus far. It just needs to happen just to at least measure up to see where Goku stands with Beerus now, because it's unquestionable that Goku has gotten significantly more powerful than how he was back at the end of Dragon Ball Z and during the beginning of Battle of Gods, so that's without question. So seeing where Goku ranks now against Beerus, I think, would be way more than justifiable just to see where Goku stands in terms of being the character that he is. But in the end, guys, let us know who you guys believe would win. Should this fight even happen to begin with? Should we see a Goku versus Beerus rematch at some given point? I think it's personally way overdue, but I want to hear your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys go ahead and slap a like down below. If, of course, you guys are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, guys. The road to 1 million subscribers continues. Make sure you guys have that notification icon enabled. And, of course, if you guys want to go ahead and watch more what if discussions or even general discussions as a whole, make sure you guys click the link down below in the description and check out all the previous discussions. Also, check out and subscribe to EmoshIsLive Channel. I will leave links to everything down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Between Beerus and Goku, who do you guys believe would win? In the end, for me personally, subjectively speaking, I think that Goku would definitely win. I don't think Goku would win by a large margin. I think that Beerus at full power would beat the crap out of Goku, but in some way, I believe that with the ability for Goku to dodge instinctively, I think that without having him be conscious of everything that's going on around him, I do think that his body would react very well to Beerus fighting him. But in the end, I want to get your thoughts as to how you guys feel down below. Thank you all once again. Tune back in for more. A community response will be coming in the future, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys in the next Dragon Ball video. Take it easy, everybody. Cue my motherfucking outro, bitch.